1. Piper's on station. Your journey ends here. The skies belong to me.
Hello everyone, my name is Faberia Pendragon, we are the Whispers, and this is How to Play Pilot in Risk of Rain Returns. First and foremost, spoilers, obviously. I won't be showing new stages or anything that doesn't pertain directly to Pilot, but there will likely be footage of things like new items, as well as of course everything about this character. So if you want to discover Pilot organically, I recommend clicking away and coming back later once you've got him to share your suggestions and thoughts about your character in the comments below. That being said, this is intended to act as a comprehensive guide to the survivor. We'll go over how to unlock Pilot, how he plays in a general sense, and then into the specifics of each ability and how to unlock and use his alternates. Alright, so to play Pilot, we gotta get Pilot. So how do you do that? Simple.
Kill.
Okay, but in all seriousness, you unlock Pilot just by collecting monster logs. 15 of them, to be exact, across all your time and risk returns. And since logs have a chance to drop from enemies, it's time to get killing. Pilot is incredibly fun. In my opinion, he has a powerful kit full of mobility, and so far is the most fluid character I've seen. I describe him as a hyper-mobile glass cannon because his abilities are very good at dealing with lots of enemies, and he can very easily avoid damage, but he also needs to avoid that damage because just a couple of well-placed hits can absolutely leave you at everyone's favorite mocking death screen. He comes equipped with a powerful primary fire, an incredibly adaptable secondary, a wildly fun mobility tool as a third ability, and oh boy, are we going to be getting back to that one, because yeah, it's real fun. And a great crowd control option for a fourth ability. Pilot's first ability is Cluster Fire. Has a moderate rate of fire, a solid damage per hit, but a slightly limited range, though not nearly as limited as, say, Enforcer. Each hit on its own can stagger things like Lemurians, which is great for crowd control, and most notably each third shot pierces all enemies in its range, while also dealing additional damage much like Commando's Full Metal Jacket. This stronger piercing third hit can also stagger stronger enemies like sand crabs or rock golems. This makes it great at dealing with crowds of grounded enemies all on its own, while also being solid against stronger single enemies. I mean, look at this. These enemies just don't get to play the game. Get wrecked, nerds. Pilot's second ability is Target Acquired. This ability is a burst fire that has 2 charges at base and changes its firing direction up or down depending on whether you're grounded or airborne. However, if there's an enemy present within its cone of range, it will lock on and fire all shots at that enemy, changing targets mid-burst if it dies. Oh, and I almost forgot its most notable feature. It shoots through walls and pierces enemies. Pilot's third ability is Rapid Deployment. When activated, you launch into the air, deploying your parachute and safely gliding back to the ground below. Now on the surface, Rapid Deployment is just a mobility tool, and that is correct, but it is such a fluid mobility tool that also changes how 2 of your other abilities operate that calling it just a mobility tool feels like a bit of an undersell. Rapid Deployment has 2 distinct launch angles. When grounded, you're sent further upwards, whereas when activated while airborne, you're sent notably more forward. And properly utilizing both launch angles alongside your own drifting after launch will be what gives you a lot of the fluidity and movement this character offers. And if you really want to have fun, you can hit a geyser while you have your shootout and join the UES space program. Finally, Pilot's fourth ability is Airstrike. Activating Airstrike plants a bomb that stays in place and goes off if an enemy gets too close, launching it airborne. You get 2 charges and both bombs can go off multiple times. Just like Target Acquired, this ability has 2 distinct firing modes dependent on if you're airborne or not. While on the ground, the pilot performs a backdash, leaving the bomb in its place, while using it in the air gives you a small upwards bounce and plants it on the ground below. Combined, these abilities give Pilot a wide range of mobility and fantastic damage capability, and they can be combined in countless ways. Backstep away from an enemy and plant a mine that launches it up in the perfect position to get hit by a huge burst of damage. Jump over a small cluster of dangerous enemies by using your airstrike mid-jump to bounce over their heads. Use airstrike's bounces and the recoil from Target Acquired to keep yourself in the air longer while parachuting to reach across further gaps or damage crowds below. Everything blends together perfectly to make Pilot incredibly adaptable. Speaking of adaptable, let's talk alternates. Pilot has alternates for their 1, 3, and 4. Thankfully, unlocking them is mostly easy. Unlock Alt 1 by killing 30 enemies after they get launched by your airstrike. Alt 4 is unlocked by killing 10 enemies before touching the ground and without hitting a geyser for a boost. This can be done fairly easily by just setting difficulty to drizzle and setting your damage to 200%. Alt 3 is the tricky one. you need to reach pilot in your Providence trials and complete an obstacle course. And let me tell you, I struggled. But personally, I went the upper route and then dropped down to the middle to beat it. Try the different routes and find what's easiest for you, and remember, you aren't required to grab every item. Sometimes too much speed makes it difficult to control. And if you aren't too worried about taking the longer route, you can also unlock this ability by just collecting 300 items total as pilot over your playtime. So if you don't want to fuck with the obstacle course and going through the rest of the Providence trials, that option is there for you. First up, Cluster Fire becomes Rapid Fire. This dramatically increases your fire rate with a slightly lower damage per shot. You wind up with a higher DPS overall, however this also sacrifices your Diet FMJ on every third shot. In other words, you have higher single target damage at the cost of some of its crowd control capability. Next, Rapid Deployment becomes Aerobatics. To use this, we must say goodbye to our beloved parachute. Nah, it's alright because this ability is actually sick. Your parachute is replaced by a very fast horizontal dash. It can be angled slightly up and down, and upon hitting a wall you grab onto it, letting you climb up and down freely. Last, Airstrike becomes Aerial Support. Instead of planting a couple of mines, you have one charge that throws out a small projectile. This projectile marks a single enemy and strikes it repeatedly over time. You lose the small hop or back hop for mobility, and it no longer launches enemies up, but it does still have a wide AoE that hits every enemy nearby the target, and does more damage over the course of its duration, making it excellent at tagging a boss and getting free damage over the course of the fight. I'll be honest, when I unlocked Rapid Fire and Aerial Support, I was underwhelmed. I really liked the better CC provided by the standard abilities, but after unlocking Aerobatics, I can totally see how this sort of loadout plays, and I think the ults give exactly the options players may want to make the Survivor more fun to them. You like Commando's primary fire better but want the rest of Pilot's kit? Grab Rapid Fire. Aerobatics is basically just a better combat role, and Aerial Support is really solid overall and gives an option to players who don't like having their damage source sitting there stationary. The full ult loadout keeps Pilot's hypermobile and high damage nature, but turns it into a more grounded playstyle, and it's pretty sweet. I didn't get it at first, but I did a little bit of playing to get some of this B-roll footage you're seeing in the background, and partway through the boss fight, I saw the code, so to speak. It plays really nicely. And that's about it. A couple things before you go. I wanted to apologize if this isn't the best tutorial. Since I am not a larger Risk of Rain creator, or just larger creator in general, I did not get one of the early keys that some of them did, so I did not have the prep time, so to speak. I unlocked Pilot day 2. I immediately knew I wanted to make a tutorial on him and make a tutorial series of the characters to kind of help players that are newer to the Risk of Rain franchise, because I've loved this franchise for years since the original game came out. I didn't really play it for content a whole lot. I just played it in my own time. But I want to teach some of the newer people coming in how to play, because I've always wanted to see a remaster of Risk 1, so as soon as I heard it was being announced, I'm like, yes, this is amazing. But I've only had like the past few days to do it. I did not have any prep time. This was made very much in a hurry, trying to get ahead of all the people who are inevitably going to release the day 1 tutorials. I obviously did not succeed in that, since it's like, I think a week past release almost, or it's a few days later than I wanted it to be. But 2, I have something very important, and I don't know if there's videos on this yet. I'm editing it as we speak, or I'm going to go record videos and start editing it as we speak. I found a tech for aerobatics, and it is insane. And if you're interested in speedrunning, I absolutely recommend checking it out. Or if you just want to be able to make Pilot even more hypermobile than he is with the parachute, and you want to really push his speed, even with no items required. I absolutely recommend you check that out. As soon as it's done, it's going to be in the description below. It'll probably be just in the form of like a short, because it does not take a whole lot of explaining. But it's really, really good. Anyways, hope to see you all again very soon. Thank you so much for watching.